Evidence secured at marker 4. Advise command we are holding the scene.
Copy that. It's getting heavier out here.
Breaking news tonight in the search for Nancy Guthrie.
Before hearing any new updates, force yourself to mentally process this single terrifying metric tonight. 41 days. That represents the exact timeline Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old woman requiring daily cardiovascular medication merely to survive, remains vanished. 41 agonizing days, and as we roll this tape, 0 arrests, 0 identified suspects, but why 0 formal press conferences from the lead agency since February 5th? That marks 36 consecutive days of total Pima County Sheriff's Department silence. Then, a retired FBI special agent, someone dedicating her professional lifespan, constructing parallel cases, published an online statement this week that completely froze the entire true crime world in its tracks. 4 distinct words. A specific 4-word phrase she omitted entirely throughout 41 days, analyzing this manhunt. She typed half glass full. I will decode her exact phrasing, deeply analyze her underlying intent, and explain precisely why every single verified evidentiary fragment driving this complex inquiry aims straight toward the exact conclusion she highlights. First, you must absorb the hard proof. Because once you fully grasp the materials detectives physically hold inside their hands right now, that 4-word phrase stops sounding like naive optimism. It transforms into the absolute most logical deduction currently pulled from this verified factual record. Stay firmly locked in, because midway through this critical breakdown, I will expose something virtually 0 major broadcast networks bothered reporting. A reality 2 exceptionally credentialed law enforcement experts operating within America revealed regarding the terrifying sequence unfolding across that front porch, and it permanently alters how you process every single event preceding this timeline. Enter Jennifer Coffendafer. She completely rejects the typical podcast personality label. Ignore the social media commentators, merely killing time between sponsor breaks. Our source operates as a retired FBI special agent commanding the exact institutional machinery currently hunting Nancy Guthrie's violent abductor. She actively monitored this active investigation publicly since day 1, firing off X dispatches, briefing Newsweek, hitting national television broadcasts, while establishing a rigid investigative track record. She states the absolute brutal truth regarding what she observes, ignoring pleasing narratives for hard facts. When authorities failed, identifying the mystery vehicle caught on a Ring security lens near the suspected window of abduction time, she loudly labeled that failure alarming. When Sheriff Nanos personally validated the forensic DNA hurdles, she tackled them aggressively. She refuses spinning narratives. Has she ever labeled this active manhunt near a premature conclusion? Never. This explains why when she types half glass full alongside explicit hopes that police stand closer toward a capture, you must aggressively decipher her precise underlying meaning given her elite pedigree. She recognizes an emerging sequence, a highly specific investigative rhythm. We will dissect every operational signal, driving this sequence individually, isolating them until her exact expert deduction morphs into an absolute, undeniably concrete reality. During an early March interview broadcast across the Today Show, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos spoke directly with NBC News, declaring lead detectives remain, and mark this exact phrasing, definitely closer toward identifying the primary suspect caught on surveillance tape, bypassing possibly closer, refusing cautious optimism. Definitely. Sworn law enforcement authorities never drop that specific adverb carelessly during active federal operations.
Kind of wondered deep down, is Nancy Guthrie a victim of a serial killer? Because the sheriff tells us, Maureen, that he's getting definitely closer. Your thoughts?
Sheriff Nanos?
Yeah, he says that he insists that investigators are, quote, definitely closer to nabbing a suspect.
Former FBI intelligence analyst Jennifer Dolbler, dedicating 13 rigorous years inside the Bureau, mastering intelligence collection, informed Newsweek. This statement proved highly atypical for ranking police officials, highlighting the exact underlying point. Do lead commanding officers accidentally drop atypical vocabulary during massive missing persons field operations? Never. A separate former FBI official supplied an alternate interpretation, providing the ultimate key for pinpointing this massive manhunt's actual, current ground truth. Whenever active detectives claim they stand closer referencing hot leads, it usually signals they completely abandoned filtering random civilian tips, choosing instead to narrow suspect pools via aggressive verification, intense digital tracing, and rigorous forensic analysis. Finished sorting, actively narrowing. That is definitely not the vocabulary of an investigation aimlessly spinning. That represents the aggressive verbal footprint of a closing trap. Now absorb this critical operational detail that practically zero mainstream media networks reported accurately. It serves as the single most vital structural signal driving this timeline. During those initial weeks, the FBI mobilized an enormous footprint across Tucson. Hundreds of sworn agents, a 24-hour command post, operating relentlessly. That massive visible footprint shrank. The command post shifted from Tucson up to Phoenix. Practically every network covering this geographical shift adopted an identical narrative frame. The trail went cold. Federal resources are aggressively pulling back. That mainstream framing fails. 4 dedicated Pima County Sheriff's Department detectives, alongside 1 sergeant, received formal assignments joining an elite FBI task force, deploying full-time inside the FBI's Tucson field office exclusively to solve the Nancy Guthrie abduction. 4 sworn detectives, 1 sergeant, battling 1 full-time case. Coffendafer analyzed this specific structure recently. This remains a red-hot investigation, with federal agents, analysts, and Pima County Sheriff's officers attacking actionable leads. Red-hot? Never cold? Never cooling? Detectives already know the ending. The investigation did not suddenly shrink due to dead ends. The focus tightened specifically because the number of leads worth pursuing narrowed only to the vital threads. This is precision, not a retreat. On March 10th, Coffendafer openly questioned on X why Sheriff Nanos continually rejected highly proven civilian search operations. Are police on the brink of an arrest? Do they actually possess the truth about Nancy? Yes. Authorities simply refuse to waste outside resources, which sparked her half-glass-full post that inherently demands our complete and undivided understanding. The United Sinjan Navy, a structured nonprofit boasting a documented history of assisting major operations, submitted a comprehensive 41-page operational plan directly to Sheriff Nanos. They offered thermal drones, 25 trained canines, and coordinated desert grid sweeps run by experts familiar with this terrain. This was a highly specific, professional, and documented proposal. The sheriff's office replied, using exactly 1 sentence. This work is best left to professionals. We can interpret that dismissal in 2 entirely different ways. The first points toward raw bureaucratic defensiveness, a sheriff guarding his territory. The second interpretation is the specific conclusion Coffendafer formed. The physical, ground-level desert sweep simply no longer serves as the absolute primary operational priority, because detectives have already shifted from finding to identifying, from blind searching to actively closing in. Why launch thermal drones over the desert if you already know exactly where the suspect is hiding? You need desk detectives tracing the final confirmed leads before striking. Annie Guthrie's vehicle quietly went back to the family. Coffendafer's analysis unearthed this crucial detail, yet the public has completely failed to grasp its weight. During the initial phases of the investigation, police impounded multiple case-related vehicles, including the specific vehicle belonging to Savannah's sister, Annie Guthrie. This was standard procedure. Now, they have handed that vehicle back. In forensic terms, this signals one major reality. Investigators have already pulled every valuable scrap of evidence from it. Its forensic fingerprint is fully integrated into the broader analysis. They secured exactly what they needed. They returned the car. Detectives are aggressively processing and releasing evidence, keeping the machine relentlessly moving forward. During mid-March, the FBI descended upon Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood for a fresh round of door-to-door canvassing. Mainstream outlets framed this as pure desperation, But that assumption is completely backwards. Take retired FBI Special Agent Jason Pack. Pack proved highly instrumental during the early weeks, comparing the Nest camera footage recovery to finding a needle in a haystack. He explained precisely what this return canvas actually means. Agents canvassing within the first 48 hours rely on a rough timeline, but timelines always sharpen. Cell phone records return. Investigators analyze the Walmart purchase data, and retail channels trace the specific clothing items. The timeline tightens, making a neighbor's seemingly irrelevant answer from 3 weeks ago absolutely critical. We call this the investigative process of retroactive significance. Initial evidence collected during the first days rarely surrenders its full value immediately to the detectives. Yet as each fresh layer of confirmed data lands, totally disconnected details suddenly lock together. The FBI return to that neighborhood because they know exactly what to hunt for. This is not desperation. It is calculated precision. Stop right there, because I now need to pause and walk you through the exact analytical part of this case that most national media coverage completely failed to fully address. This provides the precise analytical framework that two of the most deeply credentialed law enforcement voices in this story independently reached, and it completely resets everything you thought you actually knew about what unfolded on that porch. Stay with me. John Miller serves as the chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst for CNN. Before arriving at CNN, he operated as the NYPD's Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism. Even earlier, he stood as an FBI Assistant Director, later becoming a Deputy Assistant Director of National Intelligence. He holds 2 Peabody Awards and 11 Emmy Awards. At the 1-month mark, Miller published a highly detailed analysis of this case, dropping what I consider the absolute most crucial analytical statement anyone has ever made publicly regarding this entire investigation. I will give you his exact statement, word for word. There is always the possibility that this was some kind of planned home invasion that went completely sideways and was re-engineered into being a kidnap for ransom because the suspect's opportunities had shifted. Let me dissect that specific sentence carefully, because every single word serves a deliberate function. Planned invasion, not a random burglary. A home invasion targets both the house and the actual person trapped inside it. The resident factors into the plan as a witness to control, a clear target to harm, or a hostage of convenience that went completely sideways. Not slightly wrong, but completely wrong. Whatever that masked figure originally intended to accomplish inside that house during those 41 minutes, it completely collapsed upon contact with the actual events on that porch. Re-engineered. The entire crime fundamentally shifted its shape after the fact. A hidden detail completely rewrites this timeline. The plan ultimately executed was not the plan originally made. Someone had to improvise under extreme pressure, deciding how to explain what already happened, because the suspect's opportunities shifted. Their options vanished. What they came to do became entirely impossible. What they needed to do to protect themselves looked drastically different from what they initially intended. And then CNN's Miller dropped this fact. The key denominator here is the blood outside the front door, which strongly suggests that whatever type of crime this started as, things began to go wrong incredibly fast. Blood acts as the denominator. Blood provides definitive evidence that the crime changed, forcing a sudden cover-up. Why did this cover-up send ransom notes to media outlets instead of the family directly? Because someone lacking any real position to negotiate actually wrote them. In every documented kidnapping for ransom, kidnappers make contact privately. They establish a direct channel. You get a return address, a drop location, and a way to put money in someone's hands to get the person back. That is how it works. That is how it always works. But that is not what happened here. The first ransom note arrived at TMZ and 2 Tucson television stations instead. It demanded $6 million in Bitcoin. It set a strict deadline. It contained 0 ways for the family to respond. It provided no return address, no phone number, and no drop location. CNN's Miller described it as a one-way conversation. A ransom note you cannot reply to is not a ransom note at all. It is a statement. Why did communication stop so abruptly after the deadlines passed? Because a negotiation was never going to happen. Those notes were never the actual plan. Miller framed them as an attempt to re-engineer a complete disaster into a business transaction, giving law enforcement a living hostage and a ransom demand to chase instead of whatever actually happened on that porch. Miller asked a jarring question directly. Could someone invent a ransom note to disguise a home invasion where the victim suffered serious injuries just to salvage their crime? Salvage? The crime went horribly wrong, and the suspect constructed those notes to salvage something from the wreckage. I am not saying Nancy Guthrie lies dead in that wreckage. Officials have not formally reached that conclusion. The family stated as recently as late February that they firmly believe she remains alive. The investigation stays completely open, and the reward remains active. Former FBI agents Coffendafer and Bryan both stated this week that an arrest might be incredibly close, noting investigators operate under the strong presumption that Nancy is still alive. But what Miller and former FBI agent and CIA officer Tracy Walder independently describe is the logical architecture of a crime that started as something else entirely, only represented as a kidnapping after the fact. And if that holds true, it means the people who did this were never actually trying to collect $6 million from Savannah Guthrie. They were simply trying to vanish. They failed to vanish. Let me give you the confirmed physical evidence portrait of the suspect, because this is where the investigation becomes incredibly concrete. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent and criminal profiler Jim Clemente analyzed the doorbell camera footage released by the FBI on February 10th in extreme detail. Other forensic analysts have officially confirmed and independently supported his exact findings. A highly visible tattoo marks the suspect's right wrist directly in the footage. Clemente told Fox News Digital that this detail, if confirmed, will be heavily instrumental in helping investigators both include and exclude specific persons of interest. Tattoos are permanent markers. They look distinctive. They stay visible in everyday life. The people who know this man see it every day. Sheriff Nanos confirmed on record that the footage appeared to show a ring worn on the suspect's pinky finger, clearly visible through his thick, protective glove. Nanos stated directly, "I see it. I see a ring worn right on the pinky finger." A pinky ring operates as a highly specific personal accessory that someone who knows this man would immediately recognize in the FBI images. The suspect's black mustache peeks visibly beneath the lower edge of the ski mask. His eyebrows, their exact shape, their heaviness, and their distinctive arch show straight through the mask. Coffendafer addressed all four identifiers together during her Newsweek interview. Her assessment felt incredibly direct. Between the ring, the tattoo, the clothing, the eyebrows, and the mustache, somebody definitely knows who this man is. Clemente's full profile shows a right-handed man, likely in his 30s or 40s, lacking professional experience. He never anticipated the doorbell camera. He adapted in the moment, but he left critical evidence behind. His glaring failure to fully cover his face means he almost certainly left DNA directly at the scene. He was someone with a plan who rapidly improvised when that plan met unexpected resistance, and rapid improvisation always leaves evidence. Sheriff Nanos called the Ozark Trail Hiker Pack, the specific 25-liter backpack worn by the suspect, one of the most promising leads in the entire case. Investigators quickly obtained the complete purchase records from Walmart for every single Ozark Trail Hiker Pack sold over the past several months. Every transaction, every single store, every date, and every payment method. If someone bought that backpack with a card at any Walmart in the country, that specific transaction exists. A buyer's name permanently attaches to it. Walmart officially confirmed they provided those exact records. Beyond that, investigators rigorously reviewed surveillance footage from Walmart store cameras across the region. They checked every camera at every relevant register inside every store where this exact backpack was sold. Somewhere in an ocean of retail data hides the exact moment a killer slipped up. Investigators will trace that specific backpack purchase to a real name, unless cash or a second-hand market masks the trail. Nanos admitted that blind spot exists, but he confirmed a secondary, chilling detail. The lead official heading this investigation possesses crucial evidence they actively keep hidden from the general public. That deliberate admission means absolutely everything. They broadcast a deliberate signal that our public picture remains dangerously incomplete, intentionally withholding the exact precise facts necessary to finally trigger the endgame. What are they hiding? 3 distinct traps operate right now: phone records, Walmart transaction histories, and apparel tracking. Any phone pinging near the Catalina foothills between the night of January 31st and February 1st created a permanent digital footprint. The FBI subpoenaed all carrier data, grabbing tower hits, network connections, and critical location logs. Agents constantly cross-reference those midnight signals against cellular devices present around January 11th, when a witness spotted a highly suspicious man conducting apparent surveillance outside NY's residence. Any digital footprint appearing on January 11th and returning February 1st triggers an immediate, massive alert. A phone hitting that grid once before vanishing completely becomes their ultimate primary target. Ex-FBI agent Joseph Jalone informed Newsweek that digital trails, cellular archives, and camera footage provide the exact tools needed to crack this open. All 3 systems aggressively hunt targets right now. Regarding the biological evidence, the FBI confirmed they launched forensic investigative genetic genealogy. This exact method trapped the Golden State Killer and completely shattered the Bryan Kohberger Idaho murder investigation. Technicians bounce crime scene genetics against voluntarily submitted saliva samples living inside corporate ancestry servers. If any blood relative previously uploaded their genetic code to a public platform, agents will connect the dots, construct an extensive family tree, and finally identify the phantom suspect. Their only real enemies remain time and server gaps. Without a willing family member actively submitting their code, that specific net might catch absolutely nothing. The risk remains undeniable and real, but genetics act as just one trap among many operating simultaneously. One jammed gear never stops the remaining war machine. Retired FBI agent Maureen O'Connell painted the suffocating tension surrounding this manhunt using an image permanently burned into the public conversation. She stated bluntly, "If multiple players orchestrated this hit, which she firmly believes actually happened, they sit trapped inside an air fryer right now. The real question? Who breaks first?" The assailant carried a radio, a holstered firearm, and a filled 25-liter pack, demanding heavy preparation long before ever stepping onto that patio. Somebody close watched him load that gear. Somebody watched him leave. Somebody noticed the immediate aftermath when he returned. Coffendafer told Newsweek the primary path to a conviction involves an acquaintance who knows him, finally breaking their terrified silence. An enraged girlfriend, or a relative realizing $1.2 million, spends much better than the guilty silence they desperately maintain. Former FBI agent Andrew Bringle validated that exact pattern from a strict prosecutorial viewpoint. Conspiracies shatter when one participant demands an immediate exit. One person, one single phone call. The Bureau hotline captured over 23,000 submissions. They classified more than 700 as highly credible. Each incoming tip acts like a tightening vice grip on the mind of whoever currently guards this crushing secret. 6 weeks of paranoia severely multiply the terror. Coffin consistently highlights one historic case, acting as the structural parallel anchoring this current hunt. Bryan Kohberger. 4 University of Idaho students slaughtered in November 2022 by a highly methodical stalker, who left virtually nothing behind, walking arrogantly through the following weeks, convinced he completely outsmarted everyone. Until the lab results hit, the tower signals aligned, and by January 2023, roughly 5 weeks post-massacre, federal authorities swarmed his parents' Pennsylvania residence, completely ripped through their outside garbage, and secured a cotton swab linking genetics directly to Kohberger's father. Week 5. The Idaho investigation imploded in Week 5. We just entered Week 6 of the Nancy Guthrie manhunt. Labs rapidly sequence the blood. Analysts ruthlessly dissect the cellular grid. Detectives hold the Walmart receipts while aggressively tracing apparel. Even a notoriously cautious ex-federal agent, A woman who only voices concern when truly worried just uttered a powerful phrase she actively avoided for 41 consecutive days. She watches the Bureau maneuver and suddenly projects absolute optimism. Consider the board set. The task force stands fully armed and operational. 4 detectives, 1 sergeant, operating full-time on a single case at the FBI Tucson field office. They possess a concrete physical map of their elusive target. A right wrist tattoo, a pinky ring piercing through a glove, a dark mustache, severe eyebrows, forming a ghost somewhere in his 30s or 40s. One withheld detail changes everything. Digital forensic pipelines run multiple parallel tracks simultaneously. $1.2 million in 6 weeks of FBI intensity actively compress the suspect's circle. Who actually knows the truth? Agents turned the civilian search organizations away. One veteran who ran active investigations inside the Bureau offers the most credible reading here. The search phase ended because this investigation already entered its absolute final phase. The closing phase. 2 former FBI agents, operating independently from different analytical frameworks, used the exact same word this week. That word is close. Former NYPD Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism and former FBI Assistant Director John Miller claims the blood on that porch represents the key denominator. It proves the crime went wrong immediately. Everything that followed the notes, the demands, the silence, they constructed it all to actively cover up what happened to Nancy, not to actually recover her. Former FBI Special Agent and CIA officer Tracy Walder delivered 4 words, carrying her career's full weight. It is strictly targeted. Someone intimately knew this neighborhood. The perpetrator actively surveilled that specific house. Someone connected directly to Savannah Guthrie through sheer obsession or retaliation. Neither expert called Nancy Guthrie dead. I am not saying it either. Look behind every analytical piece in this video, and you find a family: Savannah, Cameron, and Annie. They stood directly before cameras and begged. They placed flowers outside their mother's home and wrote cards reading, "Though surrounded by so much darkness, our love burns bright." I report exactly what the confirmed evidence dictates, what the confirmed investigative signals broadcast, what 2 former FBI agents state independently and publicly today. 41 days in, an arrest sits close. That reward stands at $1.2 million. That anonymous, confidential tip line is 1-800-CALL-FBI. Nancy Guthrie needs her medication. Her family desperately needs her home. Somewhere in someone's life right now sits the person who knows exactly where she is. They carry the weight of 41 days and $1.2 million waiting behind one single phone call. Somebody knows. Make that call.